Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the GFS, the GM, the ECMWF, and we'll have a look at the ECMWF Ensembles, the GFS Ensembles, and we'll finish up with the UKMO Run as well. Now it's looking increasingly likely throughout the last week of November we are going to be going quite a bit colder. Now whether it's going to be a sort of cold, frosty, high pressure sort of scenario, or whether we could be seeing some wintriness within it, that is really what's up for grabs at this stage, but it's looking pretty likely now we're going to be seeing high pressure to our west or over the top of us, ridging towards Greenland, bringing in a northerly airflow. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do run through the latest GFS, you can see at the moment we do have high pressure over the top of the UK. Now it's sort of a messy high with a lot of trapped cloud and moisture underneath it, so we did have a fog warning that expired at 10 AM this morning for some regions. Now we are going to see low pressure push in over the next day or so in the north, going to introduce a bit of a colder air mass, potentially some weather fronts moving through, but sort of turning more patchy as it runs into the high pressure. Could be a few wintry showers in the north as there is a colder air mass, but it won't be long lasted. And by the end of the week, sort of by Thursday, Friday, we're going to be seeing a flat westerly, generally under higher pressure, so not too many showers, but there could be a few around. Beyond that is where it becomes very interesting. As we head towards the weekend, we see high pressure ridging to our west, towards Iceland and Greenland, and we start to pull in a pretty chilly northerly wind. You can see quite a cold air mass does spread through. Could be a few wintry showers, especially in the north and the east for this, and very likely there will be overnight frosts quite widely where we do see clear skies. Beyond that, this is where things do start to diverge. You can see we do have that high pressure starts to topple a little bit. Now on this latest GFS run, you can see the high pressure tries to get going again towards Greenland, but it doesn't really get going anywhere near as much as we'll see with the GM and the ECMWF in a minute. And although we stay reasonably cold with a chilly northeasterly air mass, we don't go very cold like we did see in some of the runs yesterday. You can see at 850 HPA we are around freezing or below, and at times getting quite far below freezing, and you can see right towards the end of the run we're about to push in another northerly blast. So it's not majorly cold on this latest GFS run, but it would be quite cold, frosty, and you couldn't rule out some snow showers in the north and the east. But the big thing is it's looking pretty blocked, i.e. sustained. Not going to be a sort of toppler high pressure, where we see high pressure go northwards, get a brief northerly wind before it topples. It does look like this high pressure really is going to try and hold strong out in the North Atlantic towards Greenland. It'll be very interesting to see how this does run through the end of November into early December. There is a lot of uncertainty still with it, but it's looking increasingly likely we'll be seeing at least a few days, if not more, of some colder than average conditions. Now, if we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare. You can see, again, a lot of westerly winds over the next few days, and then that high pressure builds in. See a pretty potent northerly wind for Sunday into Monday. Quite chilly, potentially seeing some a few wintry showers, especially when we start to pull in that easterly wind, especially on the eastern side of the country towards even the southeast corner could be seeing a few wintry showers. But then the high pressure topples, and right at day 10, you can now see the high pressure is retrogressing towards Greenland, with the heights rising to our west, out towards Greenland, and you can see this low pressure towards Iceland, ready to plunge southwards to rejoin with the lower pressure, the cut-off low towards Central Europe. You can see some very cold areas in within that, and I would expect beyond this, we would go to very cold northerly winds. So very interesting seeing what's happening with this. Now if we have a look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. You can see again a lot of westerly winds over the next week or so. Then we get that potent northerly wind, and then we stay with northerly airflow, not going majorly wintry or majorly cold. But you can see we initially bring the -5 line. The high pressure briefly topples, bring a little bit milder air. Then we get another northerly blast in just over a week's time. And then we stay with that very cold air mass to our east. And you can see that high pressure is still out in the mid-Atlantic with warm air advection, where warm air is getting pumped towards Greenland, encouraging high pressure to build. We're going to be going once again for another northerly blast, and you can see this low pressure exiting out of Greenland, heading towards Iceland, and I do expect to see that plunge towards the UK. So it does look very cold on these three runs. Not all going majorly wintry in terms of heavy snowfall, but definitely quite cold, a lot of frosty conditions around, and definitely with these air masses, you would be expecting wintry showers or even snow showers to even low levels at times, especially across the north and the east coast. And you couldn't rule out potentially seeing some streamer sort of events where we see some localized decent accumulations. Now, again, we'll have to look at that when it's in a very short time frame, maybe 2-3 days out. At this stage, really looking at the sort of big scale, the pressure charts, and those are looking very, very encouraging if you are looking forward to some colder weather towards the end of November and start of December. Now, if we have a look at the ECMWF Ensembles, I've had a look through these already, and these are looking very cold, I must say. All ensemble members in the longer term are going for a cold sort of pressure chart. Now, they're not all going to be showing very cold air masses because simply some of the ensembles will have a little bit more of a westerly theme to it, but they all going for a generally very similar pattern with high pressure building towards Greenland, which generally is a colder sort of scenario. So we do run through to day 7. You can see generally high pressure just out to our west, low pressure to our east. You can see most of the UK, especially further northwards and westwards, under the higher pressure. And you can see all have blocking out in the mid to North Atlantic. You can see the ones where we've got blue show more low pressure or below average heights, and you can see predominantly in the far southeast, some shifting, especially with these 6 on the right, shifting more northwards and westwards, and under that low pressure, that's where the higher chance of seeing some wintry showers and some more unsettled conditions, which mixing with the colder air could mean some snow. Not guaranteed, but the potential is there. As we move to day 10, you can start to see they're all showing roughly the same pattern, slightly different orientations, which can make a bit of a difference in terms of air masses. We can see 17, including the control and operational, high pressure to our west and our north, bringing in northerly winds. That will be very cold. We've got another 15 with a northerly wind again, and low pressure plunging through the UK, more blues over the UK. So that would mean more unsettled conditions, higher chance of seeing some wintriness. We've got another 10 with a very similar sort of pattern to those we just looked at, but even darker blues into purples, which is very, very unsettled conditions. Couldn't rule out tropospheric polar vortex moving in there, and that would be very, very unsettled and pretty cold indeed. And then we finally have another 9, which have low pressure still stuck to our north, probably more of a northwesterly wind, which is still quite cold, but probably won't be as wintry. Now, if we go out to 300 hours, we can see generally a very similar pattern. 19 have high pressure out to our mid-Atlantic, towards our north as well, bringing in northerly winds. Another 18 have that similar chart, but high pressure close to the UK, so a bit drier, especially further north and westwards. And another 14 would be going into the freezer, would be properly bitterly cold, with high pressure towards Greenland, blocking out anything from the Atlantic. And we're seeing the tropospheric polar vortex drop down from Scandinavia, and we are in very unsettled conditions, with very cold air masses, and you'd be talking about widespread snow with that scenario. Now, if we finally do go to the last sort of available date, which is 30th of November, remember, last day of autumn this is, and we're seeing these exceptionally cold charts. 360 hours out, you can see 19 still have that mid-Atlantic ridge towards Greenland, cold northerly winds. You've got another 18 still with that high pressure out to the mid-Atlantic, not as quite far northwards, and this is the scenario I said where a little bit more of a westerly influence potentially going over that high. Still chilly though, and would be turning, still chilly, but still could be turning a little bit milder. And then another 14, which is properly blocked with high pressure towards Greenland, cold conditions heading towards the UK. But in this sort of scenario, it's very difficult to say exactly what we could be seeing, because there could be drastic contrast between the country, between the Scotland and southern parts of England, for example. With this scenario, the jet stream would be pushed very far southwards, and what that does risk is low pressure running up from the south, bringing very mild air masses colliding with very cold air masses coming from the north. And this is a similar thing to what we saw with Storm Emma back with the beast from the east, where we saw this high pressure to our north blocking the jet stream very far southwards, and another part of the jet stream coming in from the north, and that brought very, very heavy snowfall. And in that scenario, we'll be seeing very mild air, gets very cold air, and that's where we could be seeing very wintry conditions. But if that sort of boundary line between the milder air and the colder air is a bit further northwards, then we'd be seeing milder rain in the south, very cold snow in the north. So in that scenario, it's very much a battleground, but it gives the highest chance of being sort of a snowmaker scenario. So very, very interesting seeing that appear right at the end of the ECMWF Ensembles. Now, if we have a look at the GFS Ensembles, you can see all of that is well reflected. You can see over the next sort of 4, 5, 6 days, generally above average conditions, going quite mild, in fact, towards the end of this working week. Then we see that big drop off this weekend from around 6, 7 degrees at 850 HPA down to -5, if not a little bit colder on some of the runs. Then we see a little bit of a response in temperatures back to potentially around average or maybe above average as the high pressure initially topples. But as it retrogresses towards Greenland, that's where the uncertainty does come in. You can see some runs going very cold, -5 and below. Even a couple getting down to -10 degrees, which is very, very bitterly cold for the end of November. Remember, -5 is sort of the threshold we would need for snow at lower levels, and especially coming from a northerly direction, it would be around -5, which is what would give colder than average, cold enough conditions for snow. And of course, the more sustained it is, the higher chance it sort of settles and we see more heavy snowfall. You can see generally, though, the ensembles are a good couple of degrees below average all the way out to the 1st of December, and you can see very cold runs within that. You can see the operational run is sort of in the midst of all of the ensembles, not an outlier, and something being mild or being cold. It's just really in the centre, given how cold that operational run in terms of air masses was. Yes, it was reasonably dry, but very, very interesting seeing that. Still some milder runs, of course, mixed within that, but the majority now are going for average, if not colder than average conditions, and some going very cold for the end of November. Minimal precipitation showing high pressure still in control, but some showing more precipitation coming in, potentially showing more low pressure coming in. If we have a look at Glasgow, you can see again where it reflects over the next 4 or 5 days. Up and down with temperatures, we're seeing a cold air mass move through in a couple of days, and that's why I said there's a risk of a few wintry showers in the north. Then very mild air mass, then that cold front comes through, 10-degree temperature drop at 850 HPA down to around -5. And then as the high pressure topples, because Scotland is actually closer to sort of the westerly winds coming around the high, we actually see milder than average conditions getting above freezing before it drops down for the last 5-6 days of November into December. Very cold, average getting down to -3, -4 degrees at 850 HPA, and of course there are milder outliers offsetting that, but some going very cold. One of these ensemble runs, one of the orange ones, going down to -15 degrees at 850 HPA. Brutally cold. That would be plunging us into the absolute freezer. Temperatures not getting above 0 degrees in the day if that scenario did come off. Still, some precipitation around, not anything too massive in terms of frequency or massive spikes, but still showing quite a high risk. So very interesting seeing that coming up over the next few weeks. Now, if we finally have a look at the UK Met Office run, you can see we do generally have some patchy showers over the course of the UK at the moment, but nothing too major. And of course, this evening just be cloudy in general. Beyond that, weather front's pushing in for tomorrow morning into the afternoon, but mainly only raining across Scotland, Northern Ireland and Ireland before sort of disintegrating as it spreads eastwards and southwards. And then just showers, maybe some wintry showers for Tuesday into Wednesday across Scotland as we have that cold air mass. And again, quite cloudy, patchy rain through Wednesday, Thursday, especially in the north. And as we head towards the weekend, you can see still a few showers around. It'll be very interesting seeing this over the next couple days as we start to see that northerly air mass move through on Sunday and Monday. Very interesting to see what the UK Met Office run is predicting for any snow showers, whether it's going to be reaching lower lying areas or even in the south. So very interesting to see that. So it's looking like we're going to have a very interesting few weeks coming up with this Greenland block that is going to be appearing. We could be going very, very cold. We could even be going into a historic end of November cold spell, but it's not guaranteed. There is still a lot of uncertainty, and there still is a lot to sort of be sorted out. So We'll just have to keep an eye on what happens. It is looking definitely colder than average for the last week or two of November, but how cold, how wintry is still to be decided. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.